host, Monica Pelayo. This podcast is the audio version of my weekly article where I explore the subconscious beliefs, survival patterns, and identity shifts that shape how we show up in our careers, relationships, and decisions. Each episode is designed to help you understand what's happening beneath the surface so you can stop reacting from old conditioning and start choosing from clarity. If this resonates with you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Today's episode is titled Why Your New Year's Resolution Feels So Hard Right Now and What to Do Instead. Let's begin. By this point in the year, resistance shows up for almost everyone. We're now a few months into the year, approaching the end of the first quarter. And this is when many people start noticing something shift. The motivation that felt strong at the beginning of the year starts to fade. The habits you were excited about suddenly feel harder. You begin questioning goals that felt clear just weeks ago. Procrastination creeps in, self doubt gets louder. Most people assume this means they're failing. They're not. What's actually happening has very little to do with discipline and everything to do with how the brain responds to change. The brain loves what is familiar. Familiar equals predictable. Predictable feels safe. When you try to create a new pattern, habit, or identity, the brain immediately checks its memory bank. If it doesn't recognize this version of you, it treats it as a threat. Not because it's bad, but because it's unknown. Unknown equals certainty. To the brain, uncertainty equals danger. So the brain overrides the new behavior and pulls you back to what it knows. That's resistance. Not sabotage, not laziness, protection. Resistance rarely announces itself clearly. Instead, it shows up as procrastination, overthinking, sudden fatigue, distraction, feeling overwhelmed, comfort seeking behaviors, or questioning goals you were once excited about. This is the moment most people turn on themselves. They judge, they criticize, they assume something is wrong with them, or that they're not capable. Resistance is not a stop sign, it's a signal that your subconscious is being asked to update something deeper, your identity. When I was visiting Mexico, this is what I experienced very clearly. While I intentionally returning back to healthier eating habits and cutting back on sugar and saturated fat foods. It wasn't just one thing, it was access, frequency, and exposure. Here in the States, I rarely go to Mexican stores. I might see certain foods occasionally, notice them, and move on. I don't give them attention. What we don't focus on, we don't feed. In Mexico, it's different. I walk past food vendors and bakeries multiple times a day. I run errands constantly. I see the food, I smell it, I'm surrounded by it. Fried foods are everywhere. Sugar and fatty foods are available. The exposure was continuous. The challenge isn't just that temptation exists, it's that I was constantly aware of it, and I was rewiring my brain in real time. I know the temptation is there, but I intentionally acted as if it didn't exist. If I don't engage with it, I don't give it attention. I don't let it enter my internal dialogue. That indifference is deliberate. Because the moment I give attention or energy, my brain will pull me back to something familiar that provides instant comfort. And that comfort goes against who I'm becoming. Instead of fighting temptation, I remove its relevance. I stay neutral. I keep my focus on the identity I'm reinforcing, not the pattern I'm leaving behind. There was also social influence. People were constantly offering me soda and sometimes alcohol as well. I found myself calmly and consistently saying, "No, thank you. I don't need that. I don't drink that. I'm fine." That repetition matters. Every time I respond that way, I'm not just declining food or drinks, I'm reinforcing an identity. I remind myself why this matters. My family has a history of diabetes and cardiovascular issues. My health is deeply important because of the life I want to live. I want to travel, be present with my family, and having energy and clarity. When temptation shows up visually, socially, or emotionally, I return to this truth. My health matters more. This isn't new for me. I've done this before. I've lived without sugar and created different habits. That means I'm not trying to become someone new. I'm returning to a version of myself I already know how to be. Patterns don't loosen through avoidance alone, they loosen when identity becomes clearer than temptation. This principle is taught across multiple disciples and by teachers I've learned from, including Marissa Peer, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, and Jim Rohn. The core truth is the same. We cannot create a new life while remaining the same version of yourself. We all have aspiration, goals, and desires for who we want to become. Most people want the outcome to change without allowing the identity to change. They want new results while thinking the same way, coping the same way, and seeking comfort the same way. The brain notices the mismatch the moment you try to take a different action. That's when resistance shows up. It steps in and says, wait a minute, this is who you are. You've always done it this way. I don't recognize this new version. Resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're attempting to act outside of the identity your brain has already learned. You're standing between identities, the old version who knows how to survive, the new version that hasn't practiced enough yet. At the end of the day, what matters most is not what you want, it's what you believe. If you believe consciously or subconsciously that a certain version of yourself is not who you are, or that you cannot be that person, you've already instructed your mind to stop trying. Brain doesn't argue with belief, it executes it. This is why belief work must come before habit change. You don't start by forcing new behaviors. You start by upgrading the belief system. When the belief shifts, identity begins to shift. When identity shifts, habit follow naturally. As my rapid transformational and hypnosis teacher Marissa Pierce says, first you create your habits, then you create you. Habits only repeat when they align with what you believe about yourself. If the belief says, that's not who I am, repetition won't last. If the belief says, this is whom I'm becoming, the brain starts cooperating. For a minute, imagine that the belief is a seed. When you decide you're becoming, that intention is the seed you place into the soil. You cover it. Nothing looks different yet. No visible proof. No immediate results. This is where most people give up. All the real work is happening underground. Every small action you take, every time you choose alignment over comfort, every time you reinforce a new thought instead of the old one, that's the water. Under the surface, roots are forming quietly, slowly, and consistently. Each action that aligns with the belief validates and confirms it, allowing the roots to grow. This is how belief change works in the brain. The brain learns through repetition because repetition reinforces what it accepts as true. Every habit, belief, and identity you live from was formed by repeating, confirming it until it became automatic. A belief is not just a thought, it's a neural pathway. Like a road, it starts faint and narrow. Each repetition lays another layer until the road becomes easier to travel, then familiar, then automatic. This is why repetition matters more than intensity. Progress over perfection isn't just a mindset, it's how the brain actually changes. I've personally have experienced this many times. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. There have been moments when I needed to go to a completely different destination, yet without thinking, I found myself taking the same route I used to drive to work, even though I wasn't going to work. My body and mind automatically turned onto the familiar streets. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already far away from where I needed to turn. It wasn't intentional. My subconscious had taken over the wheel. That route wasn't the most efficient. It wasn't the fastest or easiest way to get where I needed to go, but my brain knew it. It knew every street, every stoplight, every turn. That familiarity was all that mattered. This is exactly how habits and patterns work. We repeat something so many times that it becomes automatic. We're no longer conscious of it, we don't think about it. The subconscious runs the program because it feels safe and requires less effort. Most of what we do operates this way. This is why changing habits feel frustrating. You can consciously decide you want a different result or a new identity, but in the subconscious hasn't learned that route yet. It will default back to the old one the moment your attention slips. Not because you're failing, but because autopilot is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Even when you're doing the right things, the process can feel challenging. As repetition strengthens belief and deepens roots, resistance doesn't disappear, it pushes back. Familiar thoughts and emotional responses try to pull you back to what we've always known. That pushback shows up as discomfort, mental friction, self doubt, and the urge to stop or retreat. If you stop repeating the new behaviors here, the roots don't get a chance to hold. The plant cannot emerge. Growth requires staying consistent long enough for the new pattern to stabilize. You're not just learning something new, you're unlearning what once felt automatic. If belief is the seed, then the environment is the soil. The people you're around, the conversations you hear, the messages you consume all influence whether growth feels supported or constantly resisted. This is why so many high performers emphasize surrounding yourself with people who reflect who you're going, not where you've been. A seed can grow in the wrong environment. It may survive, but it grows bent and strained. That doesn't mean the seed was wrong, it means the environment was working against it. There's a passage in the Bible that captures this clearly. Some seeds fall on rocky ground. They begin to grow, but their roots aren't deep enough. When pressure comes, they wither. These represent people who are taking action but don't yet fully believe they can become the person they're reaching for. Some seeds fall on the surface where birds come and take them away. Those birds represent outside voices, doubt, fear, and projection. The belief was never planted deep enough to take hold. Some seeds fall on good soil. They are planted deeply enough to be covered and protected. The belief is grounded and the environment supports it. They water it, they protect it, it takes root. Over time, it grows. That is where transformation happens. Resistance is not proof that you're incapable, it's proof that you're attempting to live beyond an identity your brain has practiced for years. If you keep validating the new belief through consistent action, the unfamiliar becomes familiar. The new route becomes the default. That's how the version of your becoming becomes real. Earlier, I shared how an old habit was showing up for me in real time. This reflection follows the same process. Notice an old habit or pattern and question the behavior itself by saying out loud, I need to say the habit or pattern because, and finish that sentence. The answer reveals what the behavior is providing. Once you have clarity, choose one small, repeatable action that validates the identity you're becoming and commit to it daily for at least 7 days, especially on the days it feels inconvenient. Let me give you an example. I noticed the urge to eat sugar, so what I told myself out loud, I need to eat sugar because the answer that came up was because I want immediate comfort. Once I thought about it, I challenged that by asking how that comfort aligned with the long term health. From there, I reinforced the identity I'm choosing and repeated the healthier choice. Resistance does not mean stop, it means you're leaving the familiar and learning a new route. Judgment pulls you backward, consistency moves you forward. Resistance is the threshold between running on autopilot and consciously choosing differently. Crossing it doesn't require perfection, it requires continued movement. And once the brain learns the new route, it stops pulling you back. That's when change stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like who you are. If resisting is showing up right now, this is not a moment to wait it out or assume it will pass on its own. This is the point where most people unconsciously reverse the very patterns they say they want to change. Not because they lack discipline or motivation, but because they don't understand what is actually driving the behavior beneath the surface. Awareness creates choice. Without awareness, repetition runs automatically, and the brain defaults back to what it already knows how to do. That's how people stay stuck while believing they are trying. This work isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about identifying the subconscious drivers shaping your decisions and changing them at the root if you are ready to understand why certain patterns keep resurfacing despite effort and what needs to shift for real change to take hold. You're welcome to explore working with me. You can learn more or schedule a exploratory call at thedrivingpathways.com/appointment. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode brought clarity, share it with someone who may need it. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss next week's Breakthrough Weekly. I'm Monica Pelayo, and I'll see you next time.